I watched him take a sip of the coffee I'd just handed him, his brow furrowing slightly as he glanced at the name scrawled on the cup. My stomach dropped. This wasn't Tom. This wasn't our CEO. I just confidently walked up to a complete stranger and handed him a coffee meant for one of the most important people in my company. "I'm sorry, but I think you might have the wrong person," he said, his eyes crinkling with amusement rather than annoyance. Though I appreciate the gesture. My face burned as I stammered, "I'm so sorry, I thought you looked like..." The words tangled in my throat as they always did when I was nervous. He extended his hand. "I'm Jake. And while I'm not Tom, I do know him quite well." My heart was pounding so hard I was certain he could hear it. The coffee shop seemed to spin around me as I realized what this mistake might mean for my already precarious position at the company. But to understand how I got here, we need to go back to that morning, when I was just Emma, the shy girl from marketing that nobody really noticed. I arrived at Innovateca's glass-fronted building at 8:45 a.m., just as I did every weekday. Early enough to avoid the awkward small talk in the elevator, late enough that I wouldn't be the first one in the office. I slipped into my cubicle, arranging my pens in perfect alignment before opening my laptop. "Morning, Emma," Maya called, popping her head over our shared partition. Her bright smile and colorful scarf were in stark contrast to my muted gray blazer. "Ready for the team meeting?" I nodded, though ready wasn't exactly how I felt. Team meetings meant sitting in the back corner, jotting down notes that no one would read and watching as louder voices dominated the conversation. "You should share that social media strategy you were telling me about," Maya suggested, lowering her voice. "It's brilliant." "Maybe," I said, knowing I wouldn't. The thought of all those eyes turning to me, waiting for me to stumble over my words, made my palms sweat. The meeting went as expected. Brad from sales interrupted everyone, my boss nodded along to whatever the senior staff said, and I remained silent, even when the discussion turned to the exact marketing problem I'd spent weeks developing solutions for. As we filed out, my boss, Diane, caught my arm. "Emma, I need a favor." Her voice was hushed, urgent. "Tom's visiting today. The founder. He's doing surprise check-ins at all our branches." My eyes widened. Tom Reynolds was almost mythical in our company, the brilliant founder who'd built Innovatec from his garage into a tech powerhouse. I'd seen his picture on the website and in the lobby, but never in person. "I need you to grab coffee for the executive meeting. Here's the order." She handed me a note with a list of complicated drinks. "Tom likes his exactly like this. No mistakes, okay? This is important." I clutched the paper, nodding. A simple task, but the weight of it pressed on my chest. This was my chance to be useful, to be seen. 20 minutes later, I pushed open the door to Café Luna, the upscale coffee shop near our office. The line was long, and my anxiety built with each passing minute. What if I was late? What if I got the order wrong? When I finally collected the drink carrier with 6 precisely made coffees, I scanned the cafe. And there he was, or at least, who I thought was him. A man in a tailored suit, with the same salt and pepper hair as the photos of Tom in our lobby. He was alone, typing on his laptop. My heart raced. If I brought Thomas coffee personally, maybe he'd remember me. Maybe for once, I'd stand up for the right reasons. Before I could second-guess myself, I approached his table. "Excuse me, Mr. Reynolds? I brought your coffee, just how you like it." I extended the cup with his name, managing to keep my hand steady. That's when everything went sideways, leading to the moment of horrified realization that this stranger, Jake, was not my CEO. "I work at Innovatec," I explained, wishing the floor would open and swallow me whole. "I was supposed to bring coffee for the executive meeting." Jake's expression shifted from amusement to interest. "Innovatec? I'm actually consulting for them on their new product launch." "That's quite a coincidence." I shifted uncomfortably, still holding the remaining coffees. "I should probably get these to the actual meeting." "Before you go," Jake said, "which department are you in?" "Marketing," I replied, surprised he was continuing the conversation. "Junior associate." And do you enjoy it? Something in his genuine interest made me pause. I do, actually. I have ideas for our new campaign that I think could really work, especially for reaching younger demographics through micro-influencers instead of traditional channels. But I trailed off, suddenly aware I was speaking more words at once than I had in most meetings. But he prompted. But no one really asks for my input, I admitted. Jake nodded thoughtfully. Sometimes the quietest voices have the most to say. You should share those ideas. I thanked him awkwardly and hurried back to the office, delivering the coffees just in time. No one noticed my flushed cheeks or shaking hands. No one except Maya, who cornered me later. What happened? You look like you've seen a ghost. I told her about my mortifying mistake, expecting sympathy, but instead, she laughed. Emma, that's amazing. You actually approached someone important? The shy girl who sits in the back of every meeting. It was the wrong person, I reminded her. But you didn't know that when you did it, she countered. That's growth. The next day, our team meeting was interrupted when Diane announced that Tom Reynolds would be joining us. My stomach clenched as the actual CEO walked in, taller, broader, and completely different from Jake. As Tom spoke about the company's vision, I couldn't focus. All I could think about was my embarrassing mistake and Jake's encouraging words. The meeting ended with Tom announcing a company-wide initiative for fresh ideas. We need innovation at every level, he said. Sometimes the best ideas come from unexpected places. His words echoed Jake's, and for a moment, I considered speaking up. But then Brad jumped in with a flashy proposal, and the moment passed. Back at my desk, I received an email from an unfamiliar address. Jake Mitchell, my coffee shop stranger. Emma, it was a pleasure meeting you yesterday, albeit under unusual circumstances. I'd like to hear more about your marketing ideas. I'm having lunch with some colleagues tomorrow at Riverside Bistro. Join us if you're free. I stared at the screen, disbelieving. Maya read over my shoulder and squealed. You have to go, she insisted. I can't just have lunch with a consultant I don't even know, I protested. Yes, you can, Maya said firmly. This is networking, Emma. This is how careers are built. Despite my reservations, the next day found me walking into Riverside Bistro, scanning for Jake. He waved from a corner table, and as I approached, my steps faltered. Sitting across from him was Tom Reynolds. Jake stood to greet me. Emma, glad you could make it. Tom, this is the marketing associate I mentioned. Tom extended his hand, and I somehow managed to shake it without visibly trembling. Jake tells me you have some innovative ideas about our youth market strategy. I looked between them, confused. You two know each other? Tom laughed. Jake and I were roommates in college. He's been my most trusted advisor since Innovatech was just an idea. The lunch was surreal. Encouraged by Jake, I found myself explaining my micro-influencer strategy. To my astonishment, Tom listened intently, asking thoughtful questions. For once, my ideas weren't interrupted or dismissed. I'd like you to present this to the marketing team, Tom said as we finished. It's exactly the fresh perspective we need. Back at the office, the news spread quickly. Diane called me into her office, her expression unreadable. You had lunch with Tom Reynolds? She asked. I nodded, bracing for reprimand. And now he wants you to present to the team. She sighed. Emma, I've been your manager for 8 months, and I barely know your voice. How did this happen? I bought coffee for the wrong person, I said honestly. The presentation was scheduled for the following week. I prepared obsessively, rehearsing in front of Maya until my voice grew hoarse. The day before, Brad cornered me in the break room. So you're the golden girl now? His tone was light, but his eyes were cold. One lunch with the boss, and suddenly you're leading presentations? My ideas are good, Brad, I said, surprising myself with my steadiness. That's all this is about. He scoffed. We'll see how good they are when you're stuttering in front of the entire department. His words hit their mark. That night, I barely slept, my confidence evaporating. When morning came, I seriously considered calling in sick. Instead, I found myself in the conference room, trembling as people filed in. Tom and Jake sat in the back, and seeing them, I nearly lost my nerve. Then Maya slipped in beside me. "You've got this," she whispered. "Just pretend you're talking to me." I took a deep breath and began. My voice shook at first, but as I delved into the data, the research, the strategy I developed, something shifted. I wasn't just speaking, I was sharing something I believed in deeply. When I finished, there was a moment of silence. Then Tom started applauding and others joined in. Even Diane looked impressed. "This is exactly what I was talking about," Tom announced. "Innovation can come from anywhere in the company. Emma, I want you to lead this initiative." The weeks that followed were transformative. I worked closely with my team, to implement the strategy. Jake became a mentor, meeting me for coffee regularly to offer guidance and encouragement. "You always had this in you," he told me during one of our meetings. "You just needed someone to listen." Even Brad grudgingly acknowledged the success of our first campaign, though he still tried to take credit for parts of it. But now, when he interrupted me in meetings, I continued speaking, my voice growing stronger each time. 3 months after my coffee shop mistake, I found myself back at Café Luna. This time, I was there intentionally to meet Jake, who had texted that he had news to share. As I approached his table, I saw he wasn't alone. Tom sat beside him, both men smiling as I approached. "Emma," Jake greeted me warmly. Perfect timing. Tom and I were just discussing the future of the marketing department. I set down my coffee, ordered confidently, without apology for my complicated preferences, and joined them. "Your campaign exceeded projections by 40%, Tom said. "The board is impressed, and so am I. We want to create a new position, Director of Emerging Markets. And we want you to fill it." I blinked, processing his words. "Me? But I've only been with the company for a year." "Sometimes it's not about time served," Jake said. "It's about vision and courage." I thought about the shy girl who had walked into the same coffee shop months ago, terrified of making a mistake. That girl would have declined, insisting she wasn't ready. But I wasn't that girl anymore. "I'd be honored," I said, my voice clear and confident. As we discussed the details, I caught a glimpse of my reflection in the window. I was sitting taller, speaking without hesitation, fully present in a conversation with 2 of the most influential people in my professional life. All because I'd bought coffee for the wrong person. "You know," Jake said, as if reading my thoughts, "sometimes the best opportunities come from our biggest mistakes." I smiled, thinking of all the moments that had led to this one. The courage it had taken to approach a stranger. The vulnerability of sharing my ideas. The strength to stand up to Brad. Each step had been terrifying, but each had brought me closer to becoming the person I was meant to be. "I've learned that growth doesn't happen in comfort zones," I replied. "It happens when we're brave enough to make mistakes and learn from them." Tom raised his cup in a toast. "To mistakes worth making." As we clinked our coffee cups together, I realized that the greatest transformation hadn't been in my job title or responsibilities. It had been in me and finding my voice and the courage to use it. The shy girl was still part of me, but she no longer defined me. Now, she was just the beginning of my story, not the whole of it.